the ticket. It's time for the Bronco Nation News Report with four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains.
Yeah, our second trip to the island in 30 minutes. We're with BJ Rains now. We had Bob Beeler give us keys to the game, X's and O's. Now we want storylines, Prater, and that's why we're bringing in the four-time NSMA Sports Writer of the Year in Idaho. We need the storylines. BJ Rains with us. Gosh, what is it, 12:22 where you are, BJ? It's lunchtime. Welcome.
Yeah, I got up at 4 o'clock again this morning. The jet lag, I can't get past that. So, feels like 4:15, but I guess it's only 12:15. And no, if you look behind me, this is not a green screen. This is a live view here, guys, just to make you a little jealous.
Apologies to our radio audience right now. It is spectacular. Take our word for it. This is our video segment. Thanks, Dollar Loan Center there, BJ. What's your number one here on this? Let's have some storylines. Serve us up.
We going 1 to 4, 4 to 1. I guess we'll go 4 to 1 here and keep the suspense going a little bit. I got two players and I got two position groups that are going to be storylines for me. And you know what? I'm going to start with the wide receivers. I mean, they're a group that obviously played better in the last game, but I still think the wide receivers have a lot to prove, a lot to do. And I guess you can put kind of, Maddox Madsen in with that and what he is doing to try to really, his last game was certainly his best of the season. So I want to see the receivers step up. All this attention on Ashton Jeanty. We saw Prince Strawn. We saw Austin Bolt get the 2 touchdowns. Chris Marshall, it sounds like, is going to be back playing in this game on Saturday. That's going to be a boost for Boise State. So one of my storylines is this passing game, Maddox Madsen, the wide receivers, can they build on what we saw them do in the last game against State to keep that passing game rolling here on Saturday night?
Yeah, that's a big one, especially for the momentum and to keep it going. And I have no doubt that somebody on the wide receiver room is going to step up, whether it's, an old has-been, a Prince Strawn, a new guy, Caples. Maybe it's time for Caples, the old veteran, to do something nice. I don't anticipate Marshall being a impact player. He just hasn't had any kind of game reps, and that's going to be a slow process. But getting him back on the field will certainly be a bump if he's even has access to getting on the field. So I'm looking forward to this pass game. It should be Maddox Madsen, despite the stats from Hawaii, should be able to pass against these guys, and he needs to complete the deal tomorrow night.
Yep, totally agree. I totally agree. I'll move on. My next storyline, my next key is going to be the other side of the ball, and something you wrote about, Prater, on Bronco Nation News is this secondary and some interceptions and some takeaways. I mean, it almost looks crazy when you look at the numbers and you say that can't be right. We've all talked about it, but 1 interception in 5 games, that's just ridiculous. 5 total takeaways in 5 games. Both of those are on pace to be, school records in a bad way in terms of the fewest amount of takeaways they've ever had. So I would like to see them get some takeaways. This run and shoot offense, Hawaii top 40 passing attack. A big storyline for me is this passing attack for Hawaii. Can they move the ball and have success against Boise State's defense? And again, I know they've played some pretty good passing attacks already, but can they step up and get some takeaways? They need some turnovers. 1 interception is just not going to cut it. You feel like they're due for a game where they're going to get 2 or 3 or 4. Maybe that's tomorrow night against Hawaii. The secondary, the lack of turnovers overall, but in particular the interceptions. Can they finally get the interception and the turnover, chain going again? That's going to be a big key for me. It's my third key in the game tomorrow night, or my storyline that I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's really weird how they just don't get interceptions. Sometimes on a tip drill or whatever, the ball just bounces to you, BJ, and you get like a gimme, an easy interception, and they just haven't even been getting those. I don't know if it's poor play and bad luck. I mean, they're not even getting lucky on these plays with the secondary. BJ, the only way I think this is even a game is if Boise State's secondary doesn't fix itself, doesn't play better, and Hawaii and Shager, a veteran signal caller, is going to be able to have a game where he passes for 250 plus yards. That's going to come with first downs being made, with clock being burned. So, I mean, for me, that's it, man. This Boise State secondary has to play well. I'm with you, man. What's your final key? Or Prater, you want to get in?
Well, I was just going to say the cornerbacks. Boise State's only played 4 cornerbacks. I think Thornton got in for a couple of series in the Portland State game, but they've played 4 cornerbacks. The cornerbacks have not had an interception in 223 pass attempts. Think about that. 223 pass attempts,
What?
and Boise State's all 4 of their cornerbacks have not had a single interception.
And the one they got in the safety position was thrown right to Ty Benefield. He didn't even have to move when he got the interception, the one they have this season from the safety perspective. So, yeah, they certainly got to get that going. That's a big key for me. I got 2 more for you. I'll go number 2, and that is the return of Kauanohi Kaniho to the islands, but also the final season of a Kaniho on this roster. You go back to 2017. I mean, you're looking at, 7-8 years they've had a Kaniho on this roster. It's coming to an end this year, the redshirt senior, and for him to be back on the island playing his final game in all likelihood, here on the island. We went from Kekala Kaniho, his, Mountain West career and what he did, all first team, all, league player, to his brother now. And, I know Kaniho at times has maybe gotten battered a little bit by the fans, but he's got, 79 career tackles, 3 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. He's played 45 career games at DB and on special teams. So, Kauanohi Kaniho coming back home and having his 2 kids in the stands, his girlfriend, his parents, coaches, teachers, teammates, friends. They couldn't do that during COVID. So this is a big old homecoming for Kauanohi Kaniho. And I saw him in the lobby with his 2 kids and his girlfriend and his family last night when they got into the team hotel. So for me, maybe it's a dream scenario. Maybe that first DB, maybe that pick comes from Kaniho and he has a pick 6 or something in his homeland. I don't know. We'll see. But it's a pretty, for me, Kaniho, final game for that family and their career here at Boise State, and just this legacy in general of Hawaii and Boise State not playing them anymore after this season, at least on the schedule. There's been a lot of history between Boise State and Hawaii, and heck, even after, if you saw my video, Spencer Danielson and Eric Chenander were not in the video of them arriving at the team hotel last night. They left straight from the airport to go to a game to watch a recruit. So, I mean, they're still recruiting this island very heavily. They're trying to bring players over here. But for me, the Kaniho family and their legacy here at Boise State, the final time one of them will play on the islands here tomorrow night.
I love the story. It's more of an emotional bump. Kaniho really hasn't had any impact on the football team so far this year, and I suspect that'll be the same. But the emotional bump is really nice, and it's a beautiful metaphor, BJ, for what you just said. I don't think Boise State will ever go back to the islands again, especially with the stadium situation. That's a horrible, horrible road trip. I would imagine that Spencer likes to recruit down there, but only when he doesn't have to pay for the flight. That's a lot of time and money. Chenander has a lot of history of recruiting in Hawaii. Maybe he continues to do something like that on a regular basis, but the whole Hawaiian chapter for individuals, for the team, for the program, it all closes tomorrow night.
It does. Very a lot of history, like I said, with the players they've recruited here, the games they've had against Hawaii. There's a lot here, and it wouldn't shock me, Prater, if they kind of get every 4 or 5 years do some sort of one-off or a home and home or something just to get a game over here occasionally. But this is the last scheduled meeting here Saturday, and we'll see what happens here in the future.
BJ, the last Boise State team without a Kaniho had Jeremy McNichols and Thomas Spurbeck as its main 2 offensive pieces. That's how far
2016. 2016, and everybody remembers it. And again, I know, Kekala was the one that had the better career here, was a first-team All-Mountain West player, but don't forget that game in 2021 where they both had an interception in the same game against Fresno State. I mean, they've got some history. They've made history in terms of both of them doing some things here. So, like I said, maybe chances are probably not, but maybe there's some sort of storybook, chapter tomorrow where Kaniho comes up with a big play here for the Broncos. My number 1 storyline, we'll keep it rolling here, guys, is probably the obvious one, and it's Ashton Jeanty, and it's Ashton Jeanty. Does he play in the second half? And I've been vocal about it. Others have been. I know folks. Jay Tuss is on the other side of this. I don't know exactly where you guys are, but for me, I just think halftime is too early to pull Ashton Jeanty in these games. So I'm not saying you play him all 4 quarters. I'm not saying you give him 25 carries, but for me, I think you got to get them stretched, warmed back up, and you got to give them a couple series in the third quarters of some of these games. I mean, they had to put a lot of the rest of the starters back into the game in that one. It started to get a little too close for comfort from the coaching staff. I'm not saying you run them into the ground, but when you have a once-in-a-generational season here, a legit chance to win the Heisman Trophy, a legit chance to break, Barry Sanders' rushing record, for me, I mean, I just think halftime's too early. Third quarter, end of the third quarter, give them a couple series in the third quarter, that's fine. But the only reason we're saying halftime is because that's when they've done it twice. If they would have done third quarter, nobody would have been saying, why are they playing him in the third quarter? They would have been happy he was pulled in the fourth. So for me, I just think this is way too early at halftime. That's going to be the storyline, though, because this could potentially happen in 3, 4, 5 more games down the stretch here if they keep winning big. So how big of a lead do they get? When do they pull Ashton Jeanty, and what are his numbers at that point? Is the big storyline that I'm looking at going into this game, as I think we will be in a lot of games the rest of the season.
All right, BJ, BNN report, Prater on the ball game every Friday. What's the BNN coverage? I know we're doing Ball Talk, a special edition tomorrow at 9 a.m. Let everybody know that on BNN. But as far as your coverage with the island and everything, where do they find you?
Yeah, we're going to have a really cool pregame show. We got Rachel Danielson, the wife of Spencer Danielson. She is on this trip and going to join us live. Looking forward to having Rachel Danielson on, talk about what it's like to be a coach's wife, to be Spencer Danielson's wife. She is going to join us. Jeremiah Dickey is going to join us live as well. Stephen Tsai from the newspaper over here in Honolulu is going to join us, give us the Hawaii perspective. We're going to have Keaton Davis joining from the operations team to talk about what it took to get this whole team over here to Hawaii on this trip. And Rich Waltz, who's doing the play-by-play on CBS Sports Network. So 5 live guests, who knows what else. We'll be starting about 2 hours prior to kickoff, so 7 o'clock back in Boise, and we'll have interviews, a look at pregame warm-ups, and aside from Bob Beeler and you guys on the radio side, BNN's the only outlet here, so you want to see some footage and things like that of warm-ups of the game, you got to be listening to Bob and the crew on the radio side, or us here at BNN on pre and post as well.
I appreciate that little plug, BJ. I know Bob does too. Appreciate what you do and our partnership as well. And you son of a gun, enjoy the rest of the trip on Hawaii, BJ. Good stuff.
I will. I'm getting plenty of weird looks out here, so I now know what it's like to be John Mallory. We're going to get off of here. Well, I appreciate you guys for having me. It's a beautiful day, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Good stuff. BJ Rains, BNN report. Any questions you have, 208-424-9300. Kind of interesting there. BJ saying what he's hearing is that Chris Marshall, wide receiver, will play tomorrow. He's been gone the last couple of games. Let's move on. The Washington Commanders offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, my boy, he talks about what Jeremy McNichols is bringing to the team. Prater on the ball game. We continue on this Friday when we come back.
This is Idaho Sports Talk with Prater and the Ballgame on 95.3 FM, 1350 AM, and always streaming on the new and improved